second year with the pre-service payments since it has been successful as shown by the data.
Okay, so any discussion, any motions? How is the group feeling about next steps with this? To either continue the pre-service payment. If we desire to continue the pre-service payment, then no motion is needed. If we are wanting to stop the pre-service payment, then a motion would be needed for that.
This is Beth. I would just like to express my appreciation to the staff for the thoroughness of the review of how well this was working. It was really helpful to see that, and I would support us moving forward with continuing as is.
Thanks, Beth.
I second that. This is Alex. I second that motion.
Thanks, Alex. All right. Well, it sounds like then we are in agreement to just continue on with the pre-service payment as is. And we all look forward to seeing the results of year 2.
Okay, thanks. So we're at our break. Let's see. It's 10:41. I imagine that everyone would like to have one. We come back. Can we come back at 10:46?
Sounds great. See you all at 10:46.
That was a mad dash to the bathroom. I know. Oh, you can't eat with us. She gonna be gone. Hey. Hey. Give me more clothes. Oh, what is going on? Girl. Just in case there's this. No, I don't think it is. I think it's something else. It's confusing right now. I'm totally. Oh my gosh. That's all saying. What we're planning. Let me eat breakfast. I didn't eat breakfast. Okay. It's not quite ready. You welcome to join in if you want to. Hold on, go. I don't know. Oh, sorry, I can't. I don't know what. Hey, man, get in here.
All right, it's 10:46. If folks are back, if you could turn your camera on if you can, so we know you're back. Otherwise, we'll get started. Oh, Beth, great, thanks. Alex and Xavier and Michelle. Great. Okay. We're doing so good on time.
We are. I'm excited that we planned appropriately. So
Y'all did perfectly. Great. Okay, welcome back,
Okay.
everyone. So let's now talk about instructional compensation. So Linda, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so this is a quick item. Basically, we know that the program, we're still a young program, but we have been operating for enough years now that we want to be sure we're doing our due diligence around our policies and our practices. And of course, we've done a lot of work around the reimbursements to sites, but we believe that it's time to be sure we have appropriate input and discussion. And we would like to formally ask this group to authorize a subcommittee, a short-term subcommittee to study instructional compensation. We would like this is a formal request because we want to ask for membership from governance on this subcommittee, as well as potentially add in, some other folks to be on the committee. But we would like to ask to put together a committee and to have that subcommittee report to governance by the November meeting, in time for us to plan for the 25-26 school year for the budget planning. As you know, this year's budget was very challenging for Durham County, and we know that next year there's going to be a property tax reevaluation. We expect it may be a challenging year next year also through the budget negotiations. And we want to be sure that we've done our due diligence and that our requests for funding are spot on and that they reflect the needs of the program and a really deep study. So we're asking you to authorize a subcommittee first. And secondly, we're asking you to then consider your own availability to participate on the subcommittee, not to ask you to commit today to be on the subcommittee, but to be thinking about it. And then we're going to reach out to members to ask you if you're interested in serving and to put together that subcommittee. We imagine that we would need to have approximately three meetings. We believe we can do it in 3 meetings with the staff, obviously doing a lot of work to be sure and support the subcommittee by getting information together for you to consider, as well as making sure we have a diverse group at the table. But we really want to do this the right way. And just like you asked, Kathy, when we were talking about the pre-service payment presentation, you asked, what do the directors say? Obviously, we want to be sure that we have folks at the table to weigh in and to hear their voices, because as they say, it matters who's at the table.
Great. Okay, thanks, Linda. So just a clarifying point, you're anticipating 3 meetings between now and the report that's due at the November meeting. So it's going to be quick.
Yeah, we know the summer is challenging, so we weren't going to try to convene until August at the earliest, possibly September. But we imagine, I mean, it could certainly be fewer meetings, it could be more, but we're imagining about 3 meetings starting around the end of August or early September, and being able to bring something to governance for the November meeting.
Great. Yeah, and the timeliness of this is really important with all the information you've shared. So we are looking to see if anyone is interested in making a motion to authorize the establishment of a subcommittee to study instructional compensation.
This is Xavier. About that, we established a review subcommittee to study instructional compensation.
Thanks, Xavier. Do we have a second?
This is Beth. I'll second it.
Thanks, Beth. All right, we've got a first, we have a second. Any discussion, conversation? All right, all in favor, indicate by raising your hand or saying aye. Great.
I don't see
Okay,
any no's, so.
yeah, not anybody opposing? Okay, looks like it is passed unanimously. So thanks you all. So, and then remember, Linda will be reaching out. Linda and her team will be reaching out. So if you have interest in serving on this subcommittee, I would encourage you to go ahead and let them know that, and then consider if you're asked to join. Again, it's going to be quick, right? You'll be reporting out in the November meeting, and it really is. This is so timely right now to have this work done. Thanks you all.
For sure.
Linda, can I ask you a quick question? To what
Sure, of
extent
course.
I mean, as we all watch the state budgeting process unfold and the under budgeting that they're doing for childcare right now, I mean, how much do you see state budget weighing into this conversation or not? I guess I'm just trying to figure out where I can be most
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. I'll be honest, it's hard not to feel super pessimistic right now, given the budget that the legislature has put forward. Those of you who may not have had a chance to look, it's definitely underfunding in the early childhood arena. It's very disappointing. Um, Obviously, we will continue to advocate, but that we can see, there are no increases planned coming for NC PreK as we had hoped. And so, as you know, our practice is to spend Durham County local money last. We braid as much as possible. We want to serve as many children as possible, and we want to bring as many dollars as possible into Durham. But I think that our growth at this point is unfortunately really dependent upon the local investment. And things don't feel promising. However, there's an election coming, and I think that I believe the program has clearly demonstrated strong support from the community, and we're hopeful that statewide things will improve. I don't know if that answers your question, Beth, but I think that we also have to be realistic about the local investment. The large property tax increases that Durham will have this year coming between the county and the city both increased the property tax rate. And I feel that any increases will likely be very modest for next year. And so I think that that's why we really felt a study committee to look at priorities, look at investments was really timely.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess I just am thinking in terms of like overall compensation for the entire early childhood community. And like Linda said, for folks that haven't, we know we need a minimum of $200 million to sustain with the loss of federal emergency dollars on June 30th. And right now, the highest in either the House or the proposed Senate budget's 136 million, I believe. And so we're going to be looking at a childcare compensation issue across the whole state. So I feel like we need to be talking about what we're looking at salary compensation here in terms of that broader context too, it seems. So yeah, I'm glad to help.
Yeah, and Beth, I imagine that your time is very tight, but I do know that you bring a unique perspective because of your overall statewide lens, and I think that we want a mix of local as well as broader experts. So if you have availability, we would certainly love to have you along with anyone else who's interested in this.
Okay, sign me up.
Thank you. We'll definitely appreciate anyone who wants to attend and join. And we will also, of course, provide you with notes so that anyone who, if you can't serve but you're interested, we're happy to share, the notes from those subcommittee meetings. So the next really issue is about funding, just to update you on where we were. So going into this year, the budgeting cycle was, of course, very challenging for a wide range of reasons. The first being that the first and most central reason it was challenging was that for the first time in many years, the income for Durham County was actually less. We have benefited the last few years, even throughout the pandemic. We've benefited from increases that come from Durham's growth, from people moving in, from the sales tax increases. All of the sales tax increase has really driven a lot of opportunity in Durham in terms of public services. So this was a challenging year for that reason, along with others. And I want to clarify because it's very confusing when you're in the world and you hear all these statements. For example, one of the commissioners said publicly that Durham was investing over $10 million in early childhood. And it's confusing because you hear all these numbers thrown around and it's like, wait a minute, what? So, just for clarity for this coming budget, the way things landed, and we so appreciate the support of our elected officials for Durham PreK. Although we did not get the increase we hoped for, we did get an increase, and that was unlike the majority of programs in Durham. So this year, in the what they call the Durham County Pre-K Fund Center, in their lingo, they have a fund center that goes to pre-K in general, what they call pre-K, but it's really the broader early childhood. There for this coming year, there's $8,892,529 budgeted in the Durham County Pre-K Fund Center. Now, of that total, a good portion of that does not come through this governance body in Durham Pre-K. It goes to various funding places to support public preschool, but not directly under the purview of this governance group. So, of that $8.89 million, a little over $1.5 million is budgeted directly for WITted. So, it goes from the county to Durham Public Schools. So, that carves off basically over $1.5 million. Then, in addition, for this coming school year, dollars are going to go directly to the school system for Murray-Massaburg. So through the budget negotiations, we were thrilled that funding was found to fund seats at Murray-Massaburg. But that money is going to go directly through Durham Public Schools. And the reason for that change, you remember when Lions Farm opened as a new school, the county commission said that moving forward at that point, funding for pre-K seats would come through Durham PreK through this governance group. And then seats would be allocated and created at public schools. And so at that time, they had said they were not going to fund the school district directly anymore for seats. They were going to use the governance group and Durham PreK as a program guide. But what happened this year with Murray Massenburg, we advocated for money in our budget request. So when you look on the slide and it says we requested 8.246365 for Durham PreK, that was because we were including those seats in Murray Massenburg that we wanted to open that school. But what happened in the budget negotiations, the county in all their innovation found some money through some unallocated ARPA funds to fund the school district for Murray Massenburg PreK directly. They were not able to fund this group with that money because they were able to fund Durham Public Schools through their interlocal agreements. If they had wanted to fund Durham PreK directly with that money, they would have had to go through and have a whole RFA process, grant process, as part of their ARPA work. But with their interlocal agreement, they were able to allocate those ARPA funds directly to the school district for Murray Massenburg. So the great news is we will have preschool seats at the new school, Murray Massenburg. It'll just be funded more like Whitted than it is the other seats at the public schools like Lions Farm. So even though our budget request was granted at a lower amount than we asked for, a big chunk of that cut was the funds that are being funneled directly to the school system. Now, some of our other initiatives were not funded because we didn't get our full request. Basically in this slide, it shares with you what we will do now. So our increase that we received, we will add only approximately 36 seats to the Durham PreK group, not including Murray Massenburg. So our money will pay for the new 36 seats at a private location, but the Murray Massenburg seats will still be part of the project, but the funding is going to be at the school district. We will also be able to enroll a smaller cohort of apprentices than we had hoped because of the budget cuts. So we're looking at potentially only being able to enroll a new cohort of hopefully about 20 new apprentices. We can't expand that program without additional dollars. And we are looking in a variety of places for additional dollars. We did get an additional $70,000 for the apprenticeship program through an arrangement with a group called ESEPS that is a national group. And so we're continuing with the apprenticeship program. We braid funding also, trying to be sure that we're able to have a really robust program, but it is partially paid for with Durham PreK resources. So basically, our new budget for this year is $7,373,029. And we won't be able to fund we had hoped to beef up our social emotional supports by hiring a healthy social behaviors specialist to work directly with sites. We won't be able to do that, but we are going to focus on continuing to beef up professional development around social emotional support. We're trying a variety of alternate ways to accommodate the fact that the budget increase didn't meet what we hoped for. I see Xavier had a question. Does this funding for Murray Massenburg only apply to next school year's budget, or will this direct to DPS formula continue moving forward? That's an interesting question. The money, and this is going to be a challenge for us moving forward, and we will work together in partnership to advocate. Unfortunately, the money from Murray Massenburg is temporary money. One of the things that we have benefited from greatly is that Durham PreK is ensconced in the county budget. up to this point, all funds have been part of the permanent budget. That's unlike some other communities. For example, Buncombe County had a big expansion of their public pre-K, but they paid for that with ARPA dollars. A variety of counties have used temporary money, and we've benefited by not having temporary money. The word is that there's a commitment to ongoing support for Murray-Massaburg to have preschool, but after the funding that they're being granted is not available anymore, which will be in approximately 2 years. 2 school years is what's covered right now, is what we're told. But obviously, we will be working hard to be sure there is funding for Murray-Massaburg, no matter what house it goes into. But beyond this year, we don't really know, Xavier. We continue to believe that this body, that governance, should continue to have oversight over all dollars for public preschool, because we believe that this group has the best promise of putting all their attention to public preschool. We know, for example, the school system has a lot of varying needs, and their main focus is K-12, and we believe that governance is a great source of support for the pre-K across all systems. So we'll see what happens, but I know that we're going to have some strong advocacy needed in tight budgets to assure that there's funding. And we want to continue toward our goal of having preschool at every elementary school in Durham as our long-term goal that Durham Public Schools did adopt as a goal. Any other questions about the budget or next steps or anything? Okay, next slide. Just to remind you, just in case, even where we are. So we believe that we're still gonna, with the schools, including Mary-Massaburg, we believe we're going to fall within 45 to 70 new seats. It varies based on the braided funding model, where kids end up in seats. We believe we will hit the 42% mark of our goal to serve 75% of the total 4-year-old census. So that's just a little reminder of where we are in our growth trajectory. Next slide. Okay, so this should be a fairly quick item. Basically, you'll recall, if you look at our March meeting notes, you asked when you passed our reimbursement rate for next year. You'll recall the staff recommended a 3% increase. You decided to increase the rate by 4%. But when that was voted on and approved, you asked us to come back to you after the budget passed just to touch back about it in terms of the amount. So that's what we're doing. Next slide. So just to jar your memory. So you gave a 4% rate increase for next year. We increased the rate from $1,400 to $1,456 per child per month. And you can see in the slide the overall picture of where we were in the last couple of years. Obviously, the rate's been impacted by inflation, and we did make some changes. So these rate increases reflect when it was voted upon. So, for example, when you voted in May of 2023 to increase to $1,400, that rate was implemented in the last month of last year and then began fully this school year. The rate that you voted on now was to increase for next year. So $1,456 will be the new rate starting with the new school year, unless you decide to revise that.
Thanks, Linda. This is really helpful to see. So the state budget that was brought up, and you had said there appears to be no increases for NC pre-K.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Jenna, if you'll go to the next slide, it has some rate comparisons that just to remind you where we fall. So this has been revised to reflect the 1456 that you voted on. But basically, right now, we are not aware of any changes that may come in the NC pre-K funding or in the current subsidy rate. The average private tuition, of course, has been all over the map. It's been kind of going up. And we check this regularly with we have a very robust database of the 9-county region with private childcare, and we do calculate those averages by county, and we will certainly keep you up to date on that. This 1235 was the most recent number.
You know, and I think if we look at the past year with the vacancy rate and how low the vacancy rate is, you know, the DPK rate that we agreed on for the 4% increase. I mean, I think we can see some direct comparisons between high quality programs, high enrollment, because it takes we have a lot of high quality measures in place that takes a lot of money and a lot of time and effort to really ensure that that happens. I mean, I'm still comfortable with the 4%, but how does the rest of the group feel? And again, I think, you know, we're really leading and showing what compensation is needed when we have got teachers with degrees and assistant teachers with associate degrees. And yeah.
Yeah, and I'll remind you, this is the per child rate. This does not include, we also have a teacher support payment that helps pay the higher wages that we require of our staff. So, and this also is not inclusive of that free service payment. This is the monthly reimbursement rate when a child is enrolled and attends.
I mean, I think we all know that the true cost of care isn't even reflected in the subsidy rates currently. And so, I mean, I feel like the 4% is appropriate, especially as some of the state try to decouple compensation from quality. I think it's really important that we continue to stand firm on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we hear from providers is that, you know, the low reimbursement rate provided by the subsidy system is just not sustainable for most programs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way we're going to continue to meet the demand is if we have the reimbursement rate at such a level that sites are able to pay their teachers and to attract teachers to want to be in Durham pre-K classrooms. Any other discussion or ideas about this? Is the group still great with the 4%? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding.
Yes, I'm still in support of it. I mean, it's about being competitive. We're not really competitive, but we're making strides or attempting to at least. So it is what it is. I'm still with the current status of the 4%.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, thank you so much. Next slide. We're to the fun part of our meeting. Thank you so much. We're going to hear from our folks about our programs. Tamara?
Good. It's still morning. Good morning, everybody. And as I said in the chat, no, I'm not trying to be cool today, you know I am, but I'm having a little eye difficulty. So Just want to share some program updates and welcome our new sites to Durham PreK. And kind of as Linda just stated, we are welcoming Murray Massenburg to the group. And so it's a beautiful new school not too far from here. And they are working expeditiously to get that school open and ready. And those kids are going to be so excited on their first day. So great job on that, Durham Public Schools. And kids are kids, even though, just to let you guys know, they have been in capacity building for a little while. And so they are now coming into the fold. They applied this year, they were approved. And so now they're coming into to fold for DPK. So they've had a lot of TA support for a few years. And so we welcome them as well. So beautiful location as well. I've already met with them virtually, and I think our NC Pre-K folks have met with them in person. And so we're excited. They're excited to come as well. So they've done a lot of work to get to this point. So we welcome them as well.
Excellent.
And now
Good,
we'll take it over to Tosh.
good morning, everyone. An update for our outreach. As of May 31st, we had 1,203 applications that had been received or were in progress for our upcoming school year. For April, we had a roll up and enroll event that took place at Durham Tech. We had 46 families. I'm sorry, we had 26 families that attended that event. On May 1st, we had our family info session, which was provided hybrid. We had 46 families that attended either in person or were online. We also provided Spanish interpretation, food, and childcare at that event. On May the 30th, we had a collaboration with Durham PreK PTA, Durham Council of PTA, Book Harvest, and Durham Advocates for Exceptional Children. And they just shared some information about kindergarten transition. And we had about 20 families that attended that event. And I'll pass it to Adrian for some more updates.
Thank you, Tosh. Good morning, everyone. So as far as updates and site celebrations, we want to congratulate our Durham Pre-K teaching staff on making progress towards their educational and licensing goals. And these are basically courses towards like their BK license or associate's degree. And these consist of lead teachers and instructional assistants. All right. Okay, we also like to congratulate the Durham Pre-K teachers on completing their Making the Most of Classroom Interaction courses. MMCI basically teachers learn to identify and describe effective interactions in the classroom. They build skills, insights, and strategies to apply class concepts to their teaching and feel more connected and supported to their colleagues through collaborative peer learning. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Yes, so this is a great accomplishment. So on Saturday, May 25th, staff, families, and friends gathered at the Sheraton Imperial Hotel and Convention Center to celebrate Kitty College's 50th anniversary and moving up ceremony. So we want to congratulate them on reaching this amazing milestone, and we appreciate all of their hard work in supporting Durham's young learners. Excuse me. Okay. Right. And congratulations to First Presbyterian Day School, who achieved NACE accreditation. So we're super excited for that. Just a little background information. The NACE accreditation process is a 3-year multi-step journey based on NACE's 10 accreditation standards. Each standard has anywhere from 5 to 40 individual indicators of high quality childcare programs that must be considered. Classrooms and programs are evaluated in 2 ways, which are portfolios and observations. So, of course, this is a rigorous process and such a huge accomplishment for First Pres. Also, congratulations to Yates Baptist on their NACE reaccreditation. like I mentioned before, it's a very rigorous process. So we want to congratulate them on being reaccredited. And now I'm going to pass it over to Maggie.
Adrian. Just a quick update on where we are with the Early Childhood Apprenticeship Program. So currently we have 34 active apprentices pursuing their associate degree in early childhood education, who are supported by 22 mentor teachers, and this is across 16 partnering employers and 19 distinct locations all across Durham County. We, as Linda mentioned, are preparing for a new cohort in fall 2024. We have 70 additional folks who have expressed interest in the associate degree apprenticeship that we stay in touch with and continue to support in enrollment processes at Durham Tech, and securing employment in early childhood if they're new to the field, or exploring apprenticeship program registration if they're already working in a licensed setting in Durham County. So excited to get that new group going for the new year. Also coming up for the program, we're holding a half-day training for our mentor teachers next week, to recap the year and sort of deepen some skills around adult learning and modeling and feedback as we move into the new year of the program. And then we're looking forward in July to gathering our apprentices in a similar format for time together to connect in person as a full group, which we haven't gotten the chance to do since our initial signing day last fall, and to review some academic success resources, some strategies and support for fitting school in alongside full-time employment as we get to the new year, and also celebrating their successes throughout the first year of the program. Other key updates, we are looking to register a new apprenticeship program, which would be sort of a stair step into our current apprenticeship program, which would be designed as an entry-level apprenticeship, which could be completed by a participant with just 1 year of on-the-job learning, and accompanied by the completion of a certificate at Durham Tech in early childhood education. So distinct from the associate degree, which can take multiple years for a participant to complete, this would be a way for someone new to the field to get kind of an earlier win, and then to be able to stack that experience as an entry-level apprentice with our associate degree apprenticeship and continue on towards their longer-term goals. So we're looking to get that going, with aspirations that it could start as early as the fall. And then Linda mentioned this briefly, but we're receiving technical assistance right now through a group in California called ESEPS. They have been running early childhood apprenticeships since 2015, I believe, and are now an industry intermediary for the U.S. Department of Labor to support programs across the country who are registering or expanding early childhood educator apprenticeships. And we've been really appreciating their support, thinking strategically to make sure we're designing a program that's deeply impactful for our participants and also can be grown to expand to reach the level of interest that we're seeing from our early educator community here in Durham.
Thanks, Maggie. Appreciate it. Yeah, we continue. If anyone in your work world or your personal life, if you run across opportunities for additional resources, we are actively working to try to beef up our resources for the apprenticeship program. It's been much more successful in terms of interest and enrollment than we originally believed. We thought we would be growing it over a number of years, and we're thrilled to death with all the interest, but we know that having a waiting list is not ideal. So we want to try to do what we can to grow the resources in order to have the program be able to serve all of those who are interested. Okay, last slide. So we're toward the end, but Kathy and I were talking about next year, and it's hard to believe we're starting yet another school year. But right now our schedule is as it has been set. We meet the third Thursday of every other month. But we did feel a need to touch base about whether that is still the best option, but also we really wanted to have a chance to ask you to consider selecting a date for an extended meeting for at least a 4-hour meeting with facilitation for us to really talk about our program parameters and philosophies more deeply.
And to get to see each other. You know,
in person.
It's so nice. Zoom is lovely, but boy, do I miss seeing people in person. So the September meeting will be hybrid. And if you are able to attend in person, that would be great. So looking to next year, how does this time frame work? Let's start with that. How does the third Thursday from 9:30 to 11:30 work? Is that still a good time with everyone? It seems like we're getting quorum at this time, so we're having good attendance. Linda, do you know if
we've only had one meeting in all of our years. We've only had one meeting where we didn't have quorum.
Oh, wow. Is this time it's good for our providers? Is there any time that's good for providers right now? Yeah. Okay.
That's why we make sure that, we live stream, but we make sure that we have the recordings available. Unfortunately, I think that our provider attendance has been excellent in this meeting, but occasionally, of course, they do get pulled away. I did get an email from June this morning from Yates letting me know that she had thought she'd be able to be here, but that an issue had come up at her site, for example. And so it does certainly happen.
Yeah. Especially in the summer. I think it's even trickier. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not hearing any comments or thoughts about a different time. So unless we hear otherwise, we will stick with the third Thursday of every month from 9:30 to 11:30. And then I'm not sure, are we able to select a date for like a half-day retreat? Let's plan on 4 hours. And again, that would be great to be in person. We probably could do it hybrid though as well, couldn't we, Linda? Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely, make it hybrid and in person. If we have it at the office, if we decide to do it somewhere else, we would have to, look for that technology.
Mhm. And we're thinking this would happen not in September. Let's get the school year going and let's look to October or the November meeting to do the big October. Linda, is that what we're thinking? Doing maybe in October separate from a regular meeting time?
I think it's wide open. We did in our history when we were founding, we did several extended meetings, but once we were really rolling, we did have an extended meeting in the January meeting. But we've done both. We've done it in an off month, and so as a separate standalone meeting. We've done it as an extension of an existing meeting. We've done it both ways in the last 5 years.
Okay. Any thoughts about y'all's preference for that? So I'm thinking if we can find a date in October, it might be nice to do this separate from a regular meeting just because our regular meetings are packed. And I anticipate all of our already scheduled meetings will have a very, very full agenda. And I think it's probably impossible right now for us to pick a date because our calendars are also all over the place. So Linda, could you and your team send out a doodle poll perhaps for something in October?
Sure. Well, we're happy to do that. We would be wanting to have facilitation for an extended meeting in order to make it the best, maximize our time together. So we'll consult with facilitation and we'll find a list of dates to send out for you to consider.
The only question I would have, and it may not be relevant for this conversation, but is there any reason to have the retreat after the election? And it may not be relevant to this conversation.
Good point.
Feels like elections are always relevant, doesn't it? For sure. But yeah, it could be either way. I mean, I think that this would really be for us to revisit the program, but certainly the election it does impact potential resources, but I don't know if it impacts our goals and our philosophies and strategies. So it could go either way.
I just know that most of the other retreats that I'm seeing that have budgetary implications are all scheduling for after the election. So I agree with you that if it's just philosophy, then it probably doesn't make a huge difference.
Okay. Yeah, and then in our November meeting, maybe we will have some indications of the implications of the election to discuss in the November meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I do think obviously we try really hard every meeting to address our principles and to report back to you related to the things that you've prioritized. And so certainly having an extended meeting is really about making sure, taking our temperature about how things have been and do we still believe that what we've set forth is best for the program. So I think that if we do decide to do this, we're aware that people's time is so valuable. We would want to work super hard to make sure that the agenda was really meaningful for the group.
And speaking of time, we are now a minute over. So thank you all so much for coming today and being actively involved and helping with all of this important decision making. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your summer and you get some time away to do things not related to anything work. And we will look forward to seeing you all again September 19th at 9:30 on Briggs Avenue or online. Have a lovely summer, everyone. Thank you so much.